I'm Sam Stock, and you are watching In Frame.
Live from Black Lodge Video in Memphis, Tennessee, In Frame, with special guest, actor Sam Stock. And your hosts, J. Lazarus Hawk and Jamie Hall. Hello, I'm J. Lazarus Hawk.
I'm Jamie Hall.
And we are Rising Fire Productions. Welcome to In Frame. This week our guest is actor Sam Stock. And Sam, I guess actor is kind of limiting. You are also a producer as well as a number of other things that you've done within the industry.
I have, yes. Hello.
So,
thank you. Nice for having me here.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming out.
I know it's my honor. Thank you. We worked on this last week for a while.
Yeah, things
kind of fun.
kind of got.
With the holidays, you know, everything coming up and Indie Memphis on the horizon at that point, we actually ended up not doing a show last week just because it was so hard to coordinate everything.
Yeah,
so
it was.
Bad.
Everything was just. No, it wasn't your fault by no means. No, by no means.
So what did you run instead of a show?
We didn't. We don't have a time slot as such. We come on and we do it live, and we let the episodes run. You know, last week's episode's there if they go to the Ustream page, or they can go to the YouTube page and watch any of the episodes that we have done because we get them all up there.
Well, thank you again for having me. I'm gonna play with my pen or something.
Do what you have to do.
Thank you for having me. It was great. Again, for when I first got the opportunity and stuff, I'm thinking, what do I know enough about Memphis art, Memphis film and Memphis TV? But then I thought, well, a little bit isn't enough. So,
well, it's not just what you know about Memphis anyway. It's you yourself as an actor have experiences outside of this town.
Oh yeah, 'cause I'm not from here.
And that brings, I mean, that's information that maybe another actor in town could use, or a director like myself or my partner Jamie could hear a story of yours from a set, and it could affect the way we run a set, or the way we do a scene, or something to that effect. So, even in a person's just general experience within the industry, no matter where it is, we can find those little nuggets of information or experience that we kind of relate to or can learn from. So
that's nice. That hopefully there's something I have, because I believe everyone is my teacher, because everyone has something, knows something I don't know. And I learned that a long time ago. I did my first show when I was 4. And
where was this?
This was in, I grew up in a small town in Georgia.
Georgia, okay.
In Dalton, Georgia. And I was 4, and somebody asked, I played a tree, and they asked me why I didn't have any lines. I said, well, trees don't talk, you know.
You understood the role.
Absolutely, I knew exactly what it was. It wasn't a talking, it was a tree. So that was my first role, and I had what in essence was my first acting coach in the first grade, the second day of the first grade. And she was a lovely woman. She had a little Scottish brogue. She was first generation in this country, and she was a great acting teacher for me. So I learned acting vocabulary and the geography of the stage when I was 6 years old.
Now,
downstage, whatever.
Did you carry this through junior high and high school?
Oh yeah, we did the whole thing. Yeah, it was once you get started, for whatever it was, I don't know the reason why I was chosen, but I got started, I mean, it's something that I love to do. I knew I wanted to do before I was 4 years old. When I was 6, I knew I wanted to act and produce and direct. Film was something that you went to see, but I thought that was a great medium also because you could play with it and have fun with it. And it wasn't so much an actor's medium. I didn't know I didn't know how to verbalize it, but film is not, and TV is not an actor's medium. It's a director's medium and an editor's medium.
Right.
Theater is an actor's medium. Stand-up is an actor's medium. It really is.
Now, was there a television show or a movie or a particular play experience that you had when you were young that made you know that that was what you wanted to do? Or was it just growing up and having the experience of being in the school play launched something within you?
Even before the school plays, I knew this was what I wanted, what I loved to do, which is the reason why I did the little plays and everything
Was it just
else.
from performing in front of family? or
No, I did. I wasn't that. People. I had a friend, very good friend, who said one of the reasons why I do this business is because I like being the center of attention, and I don't like being the center of attention. I know people who do. We all know people in this business on the theater side.
Absolutely.
Well,
Else.
I mean, anytime that you're in any kind of medium, as of film, television, stage performances, music, there's a certain aspect of everybody that wants to be the center of attention because you're on camera, you're performing for people and everything like that. But that goes into some of the people that they're a center of attention. It also plays onto their ego to where they have to be the center of attention. And I mean, you come up to that and everything, especially.
Well, there's you got your Sean Penns, who under no circumstances want anybody talking to them about anything as much as possible. They just want to do what they do and be left alone.
Well, there's a lot of actors that are like that, and especially, method actors that they're in a character, don't talk to me until I get through.
After.
Yeah.
But we know, okay. Yes, that is true for a lot of people. And think of it this way. Actors, singers, musicians, it's what we do. It's what we do. Whether we're in front of the camera, behind the camera, whether we are the performer or the producer, whether we are the sound guy, the lighting guy, the tech for the lights, the tech for the instruments, the tech, whether we're the coaches, whether we're whatever we are. But you don't ask your doctor or your plumber, come over here and do some plumbing for me, or come over, let me ask the doctor to come over here and work on something. But people say, jump up and sing a song for us, or you're an actor, go act. We learn that acting is being real under imaginary circumstances, not being imaginary under real circumstances. We call that phony.
Mm-hmm.
That's people in real life that we know.
I was going to say that's
Yeah,
what we encounter when we
that's what we
walk
do.
out of our houses in
But
90% situations.
that's what our life is. People get, when they talk about actors, people say, well, actors are liars. If they're real good, they're great actors. If they're real good liars.
Absolutely.
That's their job, is to be real under imaginary circumstances. So, and you reduce it like that, it becomes very easy, and then doing it is hard.
It can be very draining.
It's hard. It's not like digging ditches. You don't get calluses on your hands unless you're doing the role of a ditch digger. But my doctor says he never treats anyone who ever digs ditches for fatigue. It's people who think for a living, people who do that. They're the ones who get tired, get fatigued. The brain takes a lot of oxygen and a lot of glucose, and a lot of water in order to function, and that takes a lot of energy. Acting, really good actors, really good musicians, first of all, they're smart.
Mm-hmm.
They have a level of interest and understanding and wanting to learn more, like a lot of other people do who are very good in whatever business they're in, whether it be doctors or lawyers or engineers.
I often find that the better they are, especially musicians, the better they are at what they do, the more likely that they work outside of limiting tastes. They're willing to take in new experiences
Sure.
and really figure out what it is and learn it and understand it for
Sure.
what it is within its own context.
Sure. We see that a lot in musicians. We see that a lot in artists, with real physical artists, or whether it be artists who do other types of alternative art, as opposed to wall hangings and sculptures and
Right.
so, or photographs. But I have a really good friend in Los Angeles who is a fabulous photographer, a photographic artist. He just doesn't take pictures, he does art. And right now he's doing yoga in front of strong architectural places around the world. His name is Robert Sturman, by the way. If you want to see his stuff online, it's great stuff. And look at his portfolio, his collection of things. It's great art. But that's all he does. He's an artist. You know, he's not in it for the fame. Of course, people like him, and he's renowned at what he does, but he does it because he loves the work.
Well, I think all of us do it because it's, I mean, especially at our level, it has to be a passion or you're mad. Because it is, as you said, extensively hard work to do any of this, whether it's writing, directing, producing, acting, or any combination thereof.
Sure.
When did you actually start working in front of camera?
Let's see, you know, now we can talk about, you know, they had cameras invented when I was born. I think it had to have been in the late, it was in the late 60s at a small, what was then local cable production company in Dalton, Georgia. I was also doing some work at the radio station there, doing some promotion and doing some stuff because you get involved. It was also,
Right.
in the old days, they
Now,
had...
in that time period, was this recorded or was it live?
This was both. The TV was live and recorded it for later on because they had to fill up the space and they didn't want to pay us for a
Gotcha.
full 12 hours, whatever it was, so you paid us for 4 or 8. We do 8 hours worth of stuff and they keep looping it, which was nice, especially, you know, but that's when this business got started.
But the first production was actually a live on-camera
Yeah.
airing? Wow.
Music. So it was the DJs, the disc jockeys then at the radio station, WTTI, and which is still a great station now. It's a Clear Channel station, which is another great story, how you listen to music from all over the world when you're a kid on AM radio.
Mm-hmm.
It's another excellent thing. But that's how this whole thing starts. It did for us in my generation. My generation, I never remember life without a television set in my home. Now, they were black and white, albeit the first color TVs were later on.
Right.
But we also had a large cabinet radio because that was the time when TV and radio, when radio would,
Okay,
from
so-
the big...
So you were getting a lot of the pulp radio shows and
Oh, sure, the
things
Amos
like
and
that.
original Amos and
The
Andy's.
comedies.
The originals, oh, sure.
The Shadow, The Green Hornet, The
Right.
Amos and Andy, Lone Ranger.
And still a lot of news, because that's before all the news channels were going on. And you get
Right.
local news through radio, AM. FM was still going on pretty good, which was fun.
So you were doing both radio production work as an
And-
actor and voice
And film
and
or television production.
work at that point.
And that's also, remember, you cut your chops then in those days doing theater.
Right.
So I was doing I work harder on my, hopefully not looking like I'm working hard as an actor than anything else. It's a fire and a passion that I have, and I work on it a lot more. Work on the actual technique in what I'm doing as an actor a lot more. Hopefully it doesn't show. Music was always a lot easier for me. Singing to yourself or whatever, singing with the radio is one thing. Acting with someone else or acting by yourself in front of a show, people look at you like you lost your mind.
Right.
Which you probably have, but they don't know it. So theater wasn't as much, because it's more of an emoting, it's more of an outgoing acting than doing work in front of the camera.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
Much
the
bigger.
camera is very intimate, very small. And the best actors are the ones who look like they're just doing what we were doing. You know, this may look really good, hopefully, because we're so natural in what we're doing it. And that's what makes good acting, because you look like you're really not doing it. The lines are not
Yeah.
part of the character. It's just
You're
part
able
of
to
the stuff.
forget that is even there.
That's the whole idea. But you want to be able, it's not that you're forgetting that it's there. We were having this discussion a couple of days ago. If you forget that it's there,
Oh, no, it's
you're
making it look like it.
Yeah, because you're a vanilla, vapid human being if you forget what you're
Yeah.
doing here. You know, your goal is to be interesting, to be exciting, to show a passion, to show a fire. Even when you're sitting there being quiet and everything else, those are the best acting moments. Those are the best acting moments. From a director...
I actually think of Road to Perdition. There's a scene with
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks and no, it's not Leonardo.
No,
It's all right, we'll get it. Come on, everybody.
Jude Law.
How's it going?
There's a scene. There's a scene where Jude Law
Okay.
walks into the diner and sits down.
Sorry, guys, we
at
have
the
other people here other
seat,
than us, so we're not losing our minds.
And
Even though we are.
he sits a couple of booths away from Tom Hanks, and there's not a word spoken. But it was just, for me, at the time I was watching that film, that was one of those scenes that spoke volumes.
Oh, absolutely.
Without a single word. It was all in the expression or lack of expressions that were exchanged between the two characters.
Yeah,
So-
no, you're exactly right. We're in this great video store here at Black Lodge Video. It is fabulous. First time I'm in here, I'm sorry to say, but I'll be here more often. But this is a valuable asset because we as filmmakers, we as film actors, producers, whatever, and also people who enjoy all different genres and all different ages of film. This kind of stuff, this is a valuable asset for us to
That's
come in and
actually-
check stuff out.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we chose to have this show here, is not only to promote Black Lodge, but to let filmmakers know that there's a whole variety of films that they can come in here and
Oh, yeah.
watch.
This-
And it's not only is it's also sectioned off by directors and everything like that. So there's over 33,000 working titles in this business.
In this room.
And
And he's reluctant to call it a store as such
Yeah.
because
It's a library, it's a
It's
resource.
more of a library.
Almost a museum, but
And
you got to be able to touch it and remember where they came from.
and it's
A library.
we tell everyone, whether you like film, whether you want to make film, write film, produce film, act in film, if you just like to sit down Friday night, make some popcorn and watch a film, this building is invaluable on every level because you can come in here and study, as he said, a director. Pick a director.
Right.
You know, right behind you, there's Ken Russell, there's Andy Warhol, there's
David Lynch, Peter
there's
Jackson.
Harmony Korine, there's John Waters, there's all these different directors. And you can go and you can say, this is their first film. And you can watch from their first film through to their last film and really understand the director's body of work.
All right, now who's the curator of this?
Matt Martin.
Matt Martin and Brian Hogue are the
And
brainchild.
Matt is the one getting
or the
in
brains
brown
behind
jacket
this.
that's getting ready to leave. He is the professor of all that is film.
Well, he's a great asset. He is a great asset also, along with all this other stuff. And I
Craig
would say,
Brewer
you know,
comes here and talks to Matt every time
name
he's going to
dropping.
go on a... No, it's not
Name
about name dropping. It's
No,
about
it's okay.
it's about
No, you're
the
entitled.
value of this resource.
Oh, it's fabulous.
Someone
it really
like
is.
Craig Brewer, who is a local success story, comes in here and talks to Matt anytime he goes to a script because he comes in here and gets what he calls his diet of films.
Oh, this-
Usually
I've
10
been-
films, and this is what we've been putting
Yeah.
into practice, is
Yeah.
come in here,
And I
talk
have
to Matt, you get a body of work, and you go and you study that body of work because
Absolutely.
it in some way can and will have influence and impact on what it is you're about to write or produce.
And I have to say this, with as many filmmakers, this weekend was Indie Memphis,
Of course.
as a lot of people know. I
Does
went-
anybody know that? It was Indie Memphis this weekend? Yes. Did anybody see any films?
Well, I went to the Hometowners block and watched
Okay.
a lot of the Hometowners
Cool,
block.
cool. What did you think? What was your impression? What did you think?
I'll get to that in
and
just
the
a second.
attendance?
I'll get to that in just a second. This right here is kind of a rant for me. We have
Wait,
been
check your watches. All right, here we go.
we have been
Rant period.
trying to talk about film. We talk every week about Memphis filmmaking. Black Lodge actually has a Memphis section, and the other day we were having a conversation after the Hometowners block, and I'm disappointed in some of the filmmakers in Memphis. We
Why?
have a lot. Why? Because our Memphis section here at Black Lodge is so small.
So,
it's actually almost the same size it was 13 years ago when I put my film on it.
And
Well,
It's a
as
little shelf around this corner right now.
as filmmakers, as current filmmakers, me, you, and myself, and you as well,
yeah.
I have to put a challenge out to the people that are filmmakers in Memphis. There is no reason why, with all the people that I've seen at Indie Memphis and at the parties after Indie Memphis, that the Memphis section of Black Lodge is as small as it is.
There's way too many movies in this town for them not to be in this building.
There,
All right, so wait. So so the problem is not the movies being produced. It's the problem of the distribution of them being so lame.
It's not even about that. It's about if you put the time and effort into making your film, why did you make that film?
Why did you? That's
to
the
put in
question.
front of an
Producers.
audience.
That's you're talking about the music, the film business. Here we go. That's the question that producers must ask themselves if they're the ones who are arranging for the pony up of the money. What are
You
they
want
making
to put
for?
it in front of an audience.
Okay,
That's the
but
point.
are you making? Had this discussion. We've had this discussion a lot. Are we making home movies, or are we making movies to be watched in someone else's home that they're paying us money, or they're paying the distributor money in order to watch this film? That's the question. And as we have to make that decision, when we're making our films, when we're writing our films, are we writing it for the audience to come and buy it and enjoy it as entertainment? Are we buying it as are we making it as a personal statement?
Well, by and large, filmmakers want their films to be seen.
Again,
They
but
want an audience.
are we going in, since we are filmmakers, are we going into our movies to make money, or are we going in to make a movie? Or hopefully we're making a movie that makes money.
That's a wide. There could be several different answers for each of those.
Not if you're the producer, it's not.
Not for the
overall
producer,
point
but
is
the
that
overall point
there's a
that
shelf
I'm
out
trying to
here.
make, that there is a shelf here at Black Lodge that people that aren't filmmakers, there's a shelf here in Black Lodge that are people that are filmmakers, and you never know who's going to pick up a film from Black Lodge, especially in the Memphis section, and go, that was phenomenal. That needs to be seen in a lot of other markets. We as filmmakers, I know that when I make a film, I am not making a film to just sit around in my living room and watch my film, or have my family just sit around and watch a film. I make a film to entertain people, to show people this is a movie. This is something you can sit down and watch. There's the difference between what I'm talking about on the tangent that I'm on. The tangent I'm on is that local filmmakers in this town should bring their films into this building and have them seen by other people in this city.
It's
Okay.
a free resource.
It is a free resource.
Okay. All right. So
And-
it looks like to me somebody
and to
just
preservation.
made a business. They're going to go to all the filmmakers, film schools, and everything else. They're going to run in the flyer and every other place, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you want to do, and say, if you have a Memphis film, we are going to. You can bring them over to a couple of copies, whatever you want to, DVD. Talk to the people here at Black Lodge Video and ask them to make a bigger shelf, and then we'll start filling it up with these kind of films. There's no reason that people like you guys who are in the production business shouldn't go to our friends. Remember, there's no competition right now in this city because there's no business, and our distribution channels now are wide open. YouTube.
Oh yeah.
There is no problem with getting our product known through Facebook, through Twitter, through all the other ways that are not only free but reasonably priced. They don't take much effort. I have an excellent friend in Miami. She is a fabulous teacher. She is also a jewelry designer. Donna at D Design Jewelry stuff, by the way. And she points stuff like this out all the time. When you're not in our business, it's easy to see from an outsider's affairs what it takes in order to make our business work.
Right.
And you got to get your product out there. And the way to get it out there is the most reasonably and the most easiest, which is Facebook. Facebook is a fabulous way of getting stuff out. We all bomb Facebook, whatever it is, don't. It's a great advertising tool. Advertising costs money, marketing costs money, PR doesn't cost money. Doing this show, for me, is great PR.
And that's actually the whole point.
It's
of the
great
show.
PR. But not only that, it gives me, you're talking about getting on soapboxes and everything else, I agree with you about independent films. Not only in Memphis, but cities all over the country have independent film production places. Think of, and markets and filmmakers, cinematographers, great cinematographers. Years ago, we talked about grunge bands in small cities all over the country. Now the same thing is happening with film.
Mm-hmm.
Films are so reasonably, you can make a really good film for not a lot of money. Now that's all relative.
I was going to say,
We were
relatively not.
we were talking about a small budget film being something less than $1 million. That is a large budget film. Got a hot tip for you. It is. But I know people who spend thousands of dollars to make a video for their kids' graduation, wedding, other rites of passage, thousands of dollars on snapshots and this, with put soundtrack music behind it and everything else. That same amount of money put behind film making in this city, because we're not talking about a lot of money. I mean, we know people who are making films for less than $10,000.
Most of us are making them for virtually nothing.
Yeah.
But I'm saying we're talking about realistic music business, film business, art business situations.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make the film above and below the line, which we know means actors, writers, the people who are more obvious and the people who are less obvious, not who are less important but are less obvious to the film. And you got to pay these guys. You're not paying them a lot.
That's actually something we're going through right now. He's working on his first feature, and we're doing some rewrites because it'll be easier to sell to investors if we have certain things tightened certain ways.
Oh,
It's called
absolutely.
quality control, basically.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing a lot of self-quality control before we reach out, because he's done his homework and he's done a little bit of extra work on top of that, and he's reached to a few people outside of this city and has brought some potential attention to this film.
Absolutely.
So we want to make sure we have this as tight as it can be.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're going through that, and as we rewrite, the back of my head, of course, is just going cha-ching, cha-ching, because I'm thinking
Oh, that means money.
all of our budget. It means money, but it means money that has to go into the film.
Yes.
So, but we do have to go through, and we have to figure everything above the line, all the producers, all the director costs, all that goes into that side.
And the actors.
And then we have to go for the other side,
And the
which
music.
is below the line, and get all of the in front of the camera talent figured out.
Yep.
Get all their budgets, all their day rates, all
Yeah.
that figured out. The per
Yeah.
diems, housing for those who are coming from out of town.
Yeah.
Food costs,
Yeah.
travel costs.
Yeah.
The X Factor cost.
Yeah.
So
And
I mean,
the
there's all
10%
these
cost
different
you
things,
figure in
and
after on top of that, because you know you're going to. Sure, so of course that's welcome to
costuming, art department. I mean, it just
everything. And if you're making something of quality, you have to have a lot of people involved in the process. One of the things I really like to do is look at the credits at the end of films. Whether you go to the theaters and look at credits, whether you go to wherever it is, I like to go and see who's worked on that flick. They spend a lot of time and a lot of effort and everything else. Whether it's good or whether it's not good, in my opinion, they expended the effort.
they still put the time and the
Absolutely.
energy in it.
Absolutely. And again, it's a director's and editor's medium. Soundtracks are super important. By the way, we're talking about talent in a city. Memphis has so much talent for our business.
Yeah.
Above the line and below the line, in front of the camera, below the camera. For instance, we were talking about soundtracks a little bit ago. People like Gary Topper, who is a fabulous, fabulous musician, plays more wind instruments than I have fingers. I mean, this guy is good at it. Everything from all the saxes and clarinets through recorder and
Whistles.
I mean,
Wow.
the guy is good. A fabulous resource here. He was a professor at University of Memphis. He was one of the arrangers on the Ellington concert last week at GPAC, along with Sam Shute.
Okay.
Sam Shute, we were talking about my scuba-ing how-to video, which I produced a while ago. Sam Shute was one of the guys who did the sound, worked on the soundtrack on that. I'm tightening that up again. I'm going to re-release it with new music and everything else. The information is still good. Pretty people, typical movie. Pretty people doing pretty things in pretty places with great, simple, fun dialogues, pretty and great music. I mean, what can go wrong except bad distribution?
Right.
Yeah, which happens. As the producer, I know what's happened. As producers, you know that's going to happen. Whatever money we're talking about, coming up with budgets again.
Well, see, the first thing, and this is something we've been talking about a lot lately, the first thing we have to do is make sure that as filmmakers in this town, as actors in this town, as musicians in this town, as any kind of an artist in this town, you have to realize that you are in the music, whether
business,
it's film, business.
The
And that's
business aspect
the
of
capital letter
bus-
is in the B.
Show business, film business.
The capital
business.
letter is the B. The emphasis is that you are in a business, and you
Business.
have to think of it as a business.
Sure.
You can't just go, okay, I have a film for $200,000. Let's go make it.
Yeah.
Where are you going to get $200,000? Well, this guy can invest it.
well,
That
what are you
guy's
going to
gonna
get
wanna
back?
know how
What is
he's
that
getting that
guy's going to
money
get
back.
back out of it too? So
And he's going to
Plus
want
a
to know
very
why
good,
he should invest.
plus a very good return of investment. Because even in these
Exactly.
bad times, you can go to the bank and get 1 or 2%.
Mhm.
Well, it's better than losing 100%.
So, you know,
Yeah.
why should he invest in your film when he can get a guaranteed 2% at his bank?
On
What's
the
he
money.
going to get out of it by putting it in there? So you have to have a plan for that, which requires doing your homework.
A lot of homework.
And then to get it all right, as you said, you have to employ. And I love working on small, intimate crews. But when it comes to doing a feature production, you really want to make sure that you have accountability. And you want to take off as many hats as you possibly can and put them on other heads, so that you know when you have a weak link in the chain where that is. And you aren't taxing yourself trying to do it all. And you
Well,
are
and that's
able
what-
to focus
and that's
on
what
the
we
job you're there
do.
to do.
And that's what we do as independent filmmakers, especially with smaller projects, and that all of us have done. We've always worn the multitudes of hats, you know, and that's what we're trying to steer clear.
Nice hat, by the way.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
We try with this film. We're trying to stay clear of me as the director for this film. I want to be able to concentrate on the creativity. I want to be able to concentrate on my actors and actresses. I have built a team with Lazarus and several other people to be able to take care of the business aspects. I'm not all out of the business aspects of the film, but it reserves my time. But the thing of it is a business. The movie itself is a business.
Yeah.
The movie itself is an LLC. And as filmmakers, I want to be able to have my film seen by a wider audience. And I also want to be able to go to an investor and go, here's everything laid out for you. Here's the A through Z tabs. And this is what I'm expecting you to take after everything's made. This is going to be your return.
And he's going to look at you and say, that's nice. If I'm going to invest all this money and everything else, what kind of input am I going to have into your production? And you're going to say, well, you can have all you want, and then you better be choking on those words because you just gave away a lot of the
Well,
emotional
that
value
comes
of
down
the
to how you
film.
negotiate, who you're negotiating with,
Yeah.
etc.
And also, it's also what kind of, an executive producer, in the definition of producer, and the definition of executive, and the definition of the writer, and the definition of the director, and the definition of the sound guy, he's involved in, or they are involved in all of that part of it. And it's very difficult as filmmakers to understand that.
Mhm.
It's the golden rule, the one with the gold rules. And that's just the way we have to understand that. So when we're negotiating our film with the guys with the money, we want to understand that, and this is difficult a lot, and there's a lot being written about it, we have to understand our value, our worth.
Exactly.
And we can't give it away. This is not Little Rascals Productions. This is not. We don't do this for free. Our creative energies, our talents, that's part of our sweat equity we put in these projects.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't get paid for what we're doing in front of the camera or what we're doing in front of the audience. We get paid for how well we prepared, how well we've rehearsed. We get paid how easy it makes it look.
Mm-hmm.
We are prepared to put our egos aside.
Somebody once asked me,
And do our work.
Why is, I think it was on Cold Blooded, you told Todd to go ahead and walk to the trailer and just go inside, shut the door, and be by himself for a little bit. And
Tom's an actor.
yes.
Todd was the lead actor in my film Cold
And
Blooded.
someone asked me, well, how come he gets to go to a trailer? Is it, just because he's an actor? Was that'll make him high and mighty? And I said, no, you have to understand something. As an actor, you have to be prepared to be this other personality in this situation. You can't do that while all this is happening around you.
When you've got 20
You've got
20 people on a set and
You've
you're
got to
trying
focus
to
and find your moment and
Yeah.
get where you need to be. Then you need to go to the set, you need to perform. And when you're done performing, you need to walk away from all that and go someplace where you can be alone so you can come down from that. It isn't about actors and actresses being prima donnas and just wanting space. It's about the fact that without that space, what they're doing can really become a burden to them.
Mm-hmm.
It could become far more work than it should be, having all these people around you constantly talking. If you're trying to go out and perform a seriously rich role that takes you somewhere that is not you at all, and I'm constantly talking to you, hey Sam, remember that day on Headshot? How hard is that going to be for you? How much harder is it going to be for you to prepare for your role while that's happening?
Okay, that's interesting.
So actors do need that time.
Yeah, but yes. If we're being real under imaginary circumstances, most of the time in real life we are not given that time, that 5 minutes to go prepare for our life.
True.
We come at life, and life comes at us no matter what. I know people who now take a few minutes, when they're in the middle of a negotiation, they'll excuse themselves and they'll go and take a couple of minutes to meditate, to breathe, to focus, to bring themselves back into it. Similar to what you were talking about with actors. But as part of that process of being that fabulous actor, that liar on purpose, it's real life.
Indeed.
And sometimes I believe, as an actor, because I've seen it work both ways. I've worked with actors who needed the time, because they transformed themselves. And when they were in focus, when they were in that, it was a very long moment. It could last for days.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that happen. People so immerse themselves in a role, in a character.
A lot of method actors.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
I
gosh.
think Jack Nicholson had trouble with it on...
Well, I knew that there had been rumors that he had trouble with it on The Shining. There was
Shining,
also rumors that he had trouble with it as far as when he did the very first, the Tim Burton Batman, because he went to Heath Ledger and also spoke to Heath Ledger and told him, this is a role that can affect you.
He was telling Heath that, I think, more based on his experiences with The Shining, because Heath was going to the same types of depths that Nicholson had done for The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about those stories with Daniel Day-Lewis when he did Lincoln. And he's a very, very focused actor.
He's one of those.
Very focused actor. And we're talking, I think his wife, Rebecca Miller, mentioning to her, I think that's it, whatever it is. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. We were mentioning to him about, they have a family, and he would come home every night, and because she's also very, very hot and very heavy in the business. I mean, she's a really terrific actor, writer, director, producer, major stuff. She said, wait a minute, we have a family here. These are our children, and they want to see their father. They don't want to see Abraham Lincoln come home and talk to him about the Gettysburg Address in the middle of dinner.
Well, that's why I think that it's very important for actors to be able to have that place to go and be able to have that place to where they can separate themselves.
I think they need that
especially with the role that Todd, we're missaying it. It's Bateman.
Bateman Underwood.
Advertise your stuff. Go ahead. This is your moment.
Well, he changed his name. It's an acting thing.
Whatever it is.
But for this character was such an opposite person of what Todd was and is as a person that we all know him as.
It was a stretch for him.
It was a stretch for him. But a lot of people love those actor, that kind of character.
This was the first role, the first real role for Todd.
Well, that was a stretch for everybody, including the people who cast
So
him.
he was having
absolutely.
He was having a lot of
trouble.
It was his first lead role.
Yeah.
It's his first real speaking role of significance.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was trouble with the acting part. It was the trouble of what the character was.
But English was his first language, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He didn't have to worry about that one. That was
But it was. I mean, he's a very spiritual man, and there's moments where this character suggests a lot of very off-color qualities.
How fun!
That agreed. A lot of actors want that, and once we were able to get through the barrier of his own moral standing interfering with the type of character he had to become. Once he leapt that wall, he realized why it was such a great character for him to play.
I'm sure that reluctance added a lot of depth to that character.
It did, but off of the we've kind of got off the tangent of it. He needed somewhere to be able to
Focus.
separate himself from the character. He needed a way to. He needed a place, and I mean, I
A
think
place where Todd could come back. For
Sorry,
a
that was a
minute.
Yes.
bug. That wasn't just me snapping at the air.
But I do believe that it's great to have a place where actors can have to be able to wind down.
Yeah.
As an
And-
actor, we thank you. We appreciate. We also.
We try to provide it with
I will
every
give
set,
you no.
so.
On my I will give you my list next time you sign me for a contract. I guarantee I will give you all my wind down things that I need. If I need any wind up
we actually
things,
do ask people if
I'll
there's
bring
any
some wind
certain
up lists
concessions.
also, and that includes persons, places, and things.
As Rising Fire,
We'll make
both
some
of us have
rising
been
fires.
fairly dormant as far as actually producing a film. We started on a
Fires
fan
need to be
film
stoked
called
a little
Grimjack a few months back, and there were a number of tragedies related to people involved on the film. We had a
And some
gentleman
depth
who
to
was
it.
a gentleman who joined us on our set, who was struck and killed by a pickup truck, and he was really fired up for the project, and his death really kind of shook me.
I hope so.
The gentleman who
Sorry,
he and
gosh.
his wife helped build my costume, he passed away from cancer.
Is that the costume with the purple and everything?
Yes.
Oh, that's a cool costume.
And you
But
know,
he died, so I guess you can't even use it for Halloween now.
there were a lot of things that happened that it really kind of threw that production off kilter, and it may or may not come back. It just
Oh, you haven't finished the production yet?
Yeah, it was partway done, and there were things I wanted to do, and I was involving both of those
You
people.
need an exorcist on that shot.
So I just kind of set that down. But the point is, we've kind of, as a production company, haven't really put out anything creative. We haven't released any films for a while. We've kind of gone back and we're rethinking and restructuring the way we do everything, because we realized probably a year ago now
Excuse me.
that it really was time for us to think, this is a business. This isn't about, oh, I want to make my movie. We don't want to lose the, ooh, I want to make my movie quality. But we have to go into it thinking, ooh, I want to make my movie. How can I how can I get people to help me make my movie? And that's where the business side happens. So we've been looking at how we run our sets, how we communicate to actors, the order in which we do things, all of our pre-production and how that goes down. The master over here being the Nazi on that one. But we're really, really, really rethinking the whole approach, front end to back end, the order in which we do things being included in that, to create the best possible product we can. And that is kind of why we've stepped back and kind of faded away a little bit as far as putting out work. Because it is now important to think, who is our audience? Where is our audience? How much money can we expect from an audience like that? Is that enough to support the budget this film would require? I mean, there really are a lot of things to take in. And finding the right person for the part. Everything that has to go into all of this.
Welcome
really
to filmmaking.
Exactly, and
Well,
it's
come on.
multiple full-time jobs for any individual to do all
welcome
of that.
welcome to our business. You know,
Exactly.
the reality of what we do is fun. It's better than mucking out stalls for horses.
Mm-hmm.
But at
I've
least
never looked at it like that
But
way.
at least at the end of the day, you know, when you're mucking stalls, if the horses are comfy, you know you've accomplished something.
And I've recently learned, or confirmed, I should say, having a day job where I basically drive for 12 hours a day much of the time, I have realized that
Pack a
getting on a film set and being on that film set for 20 hours, I'm okay with.
Why? It's still a long day.
But
I don't
being
care
on
what you
but being
do.
on any other job for that long
Yeah.
would set me off. But the passion I have for the film
Yeah.
makes the rewards worth it.
Well, we were on
So
a-
it really
yeah.
is a different feeling doing something when you have that kind of passion for it.
Absolutely. And we talk about being set off on film sets. We've been on film sets where amazing things have happened, unexpected things have happened in the middle of a 20-hour shoot. 20 hours of work is still 20 hours of work.
It is still, I'm not suggesting I
No,
want
and
that.
it is. And a lot of what we do as the little focus of time when we are in front of the camera, when they are behind the camera, actually putting this information, this content down, is a tenth of the amount of time that it takes in order to make that film. With pre-production, with post, with distribution, with everything else. It's a huge undertaking.
It's a 2 to 3 year process.
And that's in a small film.
I was going to say, and that's if you're lucky.
A small film. Large films, you figure, if you're involved in a film, a large film in major filmdom.
Oh yeah, the
New
new
York, Los
Superman
Angeles.
movie was like a 3 or 4 year
Easily,
process.
easily. From the time you conceive it to the time you start bringing people on who are getting paid for their work, your production
Oh, yeah.
designers, your creative, all your artistic people, all that's all pre-production.
Costuming, the set design,
Everything, all that has to be done way before you start casting it even. And then you start making the changes in your concept and whatever else, because you may be having the most fabulous actor in the world that you thought you were. You may go through casting and have this casting director, who's a very important part. Thank you, casting directors, for all coming into Memphis, and come more often, please. Thank you. It's all, you have to have that done. And you are learning, as you learned a long time ago as you got your master's and your PhD in Let's Go Make Movies, that PhD means piled higher and deeper. That's just the way it is. You know, it's MS, BS, BS, MS, and PhD. Bullshit, MS, bullshit, and piled higher and deeper. And that's what we do as filmmakers. But that's the same process artists go through when they're coming up, whether it be a photographic artist or a painting or a sculptor, whether it be with a musician who's working on an album. We know some people who make records, and we know people who make albums, productions. Some people come in and they put a bunch of good songs together, and it's a good record. We know a lot of people who have a concept and they put it together and make an album. That was in the old days when they had album art. And you got to read the liner notes of all this great stuff, and people put in huge amounts of time. They got Grammy Awards for liner notes. Mm-hmm. They got Grammy Awards and artistic awards for the pictures and everything else that was involved in some of this great work. Just like now, the the Academy Awards are now are thinking about having their own separate award for computer designs, for great, for things that are extraordinary as part of a movie, like Gravity. If you haven't seen a movie, go see Gravity in a very large scale, like a Cinemax or, an IMAX or some large. It is an unbelievably beautiful, amazing flick.
I've not yet seen it.
Oh my gosh.
George Clooney,
Sandra Bullock.
I'm not a big fan of either of the cast members.
Go see it for what they
kind of
did with the
interests me
flick.
as far as the concept.
It's like in Private Ryan. The movie is a nice movie. The first 20 minutes, some of the most amazing film I've ever seen in my life.
Heard that from a lot of people.
Oh my gosh. That first 20 minutes when they're getting off those boats at Normandy Beach, that is, as an actor, I'm thinking, how did he do that? And Ron Howard and stuff. And it didn't say they lost any actors. Of course, they didn't say they were very good swimmers either. Be that as it may, those are some amazing things that are on film. But also, that you mentioned before, the simple things when there is no dialogue, it's just people looking at each other.
Sometimes I think
and being
that's
connected.
the more important and
course it
harder
is.
to achieve.
when
Yeah,
you
it
have
is.
no dialogue
Doing
and
nothing.
the
It's hard
doing
to
nothing
direct,
is.
and you have to. Directors at that time must trust the actors. You were talking about your understanding more about Alfred Hitchcock and how he makes his movies. His early stuff was very actor focused and oriented, very small, little bitty stuff. Mm-hmm. And that was the same guy who said actors are cattle. And a lot of the people he kept bringing on and back and forth again and again, because he liked that small little cast, he knew what to expect of them. There was an article with Woody Allen that I just read. It may have been in Backstage or one of the other Variety or something, Hollywood Reporter, that said if he'd had his way, he would only have 5 or 6 actors. He'd make all the films. He didn't care whether they were good, whatever it was. He liked working with those actors.
Yep.
He knew what to expect from them. If it wasn't for really great casting directors, he said his casting director brings in just fabulous castings. So
Well, I agree
you guys
with that
have
in
to
some
trust on
point.
that.
Even one of our favorites, David Lynch.
Yeah.
You look at David Lynch, and there's a lot of actors that are in numerous productions because
I
he
keep
enjoys
using them
working
again
with
and
those
again.
same people. And
But-
there's even some behind-the-scenes people that he
Well,
works
keeps
with
using, of course.
consistently.
That's the most. Quentin Tarantino, the great filmmaker and we think director that he is, when a few years ago, for whatever reason, his editor passed. I think they were in the middle or getting ready to start editing. And that, he said, that was one of the most difficult, not only personally, but in a career, as a profession, to have to get through, because you rely so much on that editor.
Mm-hmm.
You rely so much.
Especially someone like Tarantino,
Who is so
and
organic.
I don't mean this poorly, because I actually enjoy his work, but so much of what Tarantino does is ripped off from all these 70s films that he grew up with.
Yeah.
And he needs
Steal
that.
from the best,
He
if you
needs
have to.
that. Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I don't mean this poorly. It's
No.
just he needed that editor or someone in that capacity where he could trust him to take something like that and make it look fresh and new, so that he could stand out. His real strength, and this is where he actually makes a ton of money, from what I understand, is he's one of the leading script doctors.
We like money.
Because the man can handle fresh, real dialogue. He can he can make two people talking about nothing work.
Oh, absolutely.
Like no other writer in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
Right
And we know people who've made their living doctoring scripts,
Mhm.
doctoring existing films. The producer I worked with at Summer Place Productions, Charles Murdoch, years ago, I was amazed. First of all, he's a fabulous producer. Stuff he pulls together, the people he can pull together, and stretching dollars. Some people, however you want to stretch them. But he's takes existing films and goes in after, talking about catching it in post. He'll take the existing film that's already shot and go in and play with it again and make it a more saleable product.
I remember somebody did that with the Phantom Menace. They went through and they edited out everything that had Jar Jar Binks in it,
Oh,
and then released it, so everybody was online going, "Wow, this is a better movie."
ooh.
It was it was.
Well,
Really
we're gonna take a pause for the cause right now, and we're gonna look up some. What are we gonna be looking at, Kent?
Let's go ahead and look at the campaign for Dragon Phoenix Media. This is a company trying to launch a new line of comic books. They're going to cover a lot of different subjects. They've got science fiction, they've got fantasy. They're even doing a little bit of a. I probably shouldn't say it
Well, then
because I
don't.
don't want to promote
Then
them.
don't. Oh, you can promote them, but don't.
Um,
no, there's no competition in our business.
But this is a company I'm passionate about because this is my brother's company.
Of course, then you can
they're
talk.
launched
well,
out of Colorado.
You can talk bad about it because you know
Um,
all his best stuff.
My brother also was he worked on me with the original story for Nature of the Beast.
Oh, cool.
And he
Very
wrote the
nice.
first 15 drafts. I don't even want to say how many.
Well, you can say
of this, I
3.
I can't even know. It's
No.
More than.
more than I have fingers.
Okay.
But he is a fascinating individual, a fantastic author.
Oh my gosh! Do you hear what he's
Um,
saying about you? You remember this? It's Thanksgiving's
And
coming up.
this campaign they're launching is to try and help them hire other artists and other people to help bring these comic books to fruition. So not only would you be supporting Dragon Phoenix Media and the stories they want to tell,
Dragon Phoenix Media.
but you
Got
would
it?
also be
Dragon
supporting
Phoenix.
other artists that they would then be hiring to do the work. So go ahead and take a look
And
at
his
this
name.
campaign.
Wait a minute. Dragon Phoenix Media.
Correct.
And his name is.
My brother's name?
Yes.
Glenn.
Glenn. Dragon Phoenix Media. Comic book action. Great stuff. You can do things in comic books you can't do anywhere else.
This is true.
I know. Graphic.
It's true.
Comic
Let's
book.
go ahead
Oh
and
my
take a look at that. We'll be right
Please
back.
hurry.
Dig! I said dig!
The picturesque hamlet of Bolton, Connecticut. Your typical New England town. However, under its beauty is a tragic history. Meet young filmmaker Pierce Lindale, born and raised. Perhaps you know Pierce's grandfather, the former trooper of the town, and a beloved public figure. Pierce's friends have just helped him make a movie, and it premieres tonight. Not everyone is happy about it. This could be the best night of Pierce's life, had he only known. I filmed your death. A portrait of today's youth. Always looking for an escape. Always looking for a distraction. Always, I filmed your death. Outside the public access channel, a popular television show personality makes a disturbing discovery when he finds that I filmed your death. Two intoxicated youths take it to the next level. But when the lights go off, I filmed your death. All of these deaths plus yours, I filmed your death. I filmed your death. Not everyone wants to be in a movie.
Dig!
It's a
All right,
spirit.
that was a look at Dragon Phoenix Media's plea. Please help them out. I can tell you from firsthand experience that there are some fantastic stories that are there to be told. We also took a look at the Avarice trailer from Rachel Taylor, and that was produced, of course, by
Timid Monster.
Timid Monster Productions.
Timid Monster and Dan Baker.
And that being Dan Baker and Rachel's company.
You were
And
talking
one
about-
of the finest films to come out of this town in a long time, in my opinion, personally.
We're talking about all the films that are coming out of Memphis, and now is also the independent film festivals around the country. And there are a lot of films who are produced with Memphis people who are getting nominated from awards. There are quite a few. We were just talking about them, and I'm sorry, I don't know all the things, but I know some of the people who are involved. Name dropping again, Candace McGowan. Keep up the good work, sweetie. You're doing great work.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I know that...
Dennis Filippi is also
I know
on that gig, and it's great work. So keep it up. Everything is cool.
Rains Down. She is with Rains
Oh,
Down.
Rains
Rains
Down
Down.
Productions, which is
Excellent.
Christopher Rains and Candace
Candace
McGowan.
McGowan.
I know that Inner Child was nominated and took home some awards.
Inner Child, that was all-
I
that's
know
right,
that
very
Ryan
good.
Parker has taken home
Absolutely.
an award for Pretty Monsters. I think it was at Hot Springs.
Very good. Very
Avarice
good.
was nominated for something.
I don't know if Inner Child was nominated or not.
I think it, not here.
No, not here.
But I think it got something in, got into something in one of the other ones. It was in either Louisiana or LA. I can't remember now off the top of my head.
Top 20 in Louisiana.
Top 20 in Louisiana? Okay.
That's a
And
nice.
that
And
was-
that's a good festival.
Yeah, and
That's
that
a really good
aired
festival.
as part
It
of
really
the
is.
Hometowners block here at Indie Memphis this weekend, just the other night, along with a couple of other films that were
Christian
there. I know
Walker's Slaughterhouse-Five was there. I'm not real familiar with some of the filmmakers that had some of the other ones.
I know Morgan Fox.
Morgan Fox
has
was-
the making of Poor and Hungry doc.
There
in
was Patrick Prentice, a local actor, was in a short film called Toast, which was quite comical.
I can't remember all of the directors' names.
I can't either.
Off the top of my head. But
See, and that's one of the good things. You know, I apologize for not knowing them, but on the other hand, there's so many good directors, so many good stuff, so much good stuff coming out of this area.
You
right
said
now.
earlier, Memphis has an immense amount of talent.
Yeah.
We've got people in this town that are incredible actors given the opportunity. We have people in this town that are capable of developing themselves into some pretty fine writers if they give themselves the time and the opportunity to do it. We've got people in town that are phenomenal filmmakers as far as directors go. We've got great cinematographers. We have a wealth of incredible musicians across the boards as far as style. You mentioned one or two earlier. I was also and I want to mention again, Jonathan Kirksey,
Another great.
who owns the High Tone. He plays with the Memphis Symphony. He did the soundtrack to Poor and Hungry. He did the soundtrack to Mike McCarthy's Cigarette Girl. And for my personal opinion, one of the finest musicians in this town.
Oh, there's no question.
For anything.
There's no quit. There's so many people
But we
we can
have
put
so
in that
much
category.
talent
Yeah.
in town.
Yeah, and you think the last major award that came out of this joint was the soundtrack winner for Craig Brewer's movie, Hustle and Flow.
Yeah, Juicy Triple Six.
Triple Six.
For Hustle
6
and
Three
Flow.
Mafia, the
Yeah.
Mafia guys. Yeah, that was a major award.
It was an Oscar.
The Academy Award
Took
for
it.
soundtrack. I mean, that they don't get any stronger. That's one of the top 10 of those awards that they're giving out. And, I don't know about a lot of people, but I kind of like to listen to what's going on. We don't hear a lot of that back patting on that from that flick. From that. And it's not Lynn Sittler, and it's not
I wanna go
Sharon
into
O'Gwen-
that
It's
for a
not
moment,
Sharon Fox
actually.
who's doing that either.
If you
they're
look at
working hard.
Craig's, we had Craig on the show several months back, and he acknowledged
Good
that
guess.
even with the Oscar, Hustle and Flow is basically considered within the industry kind of a failure because the marketing budgets on a film are so huge that they have to make that back as well.
Absolutely. It's
And
double,
it's all a
usually
money's
double.
game.
And there's
but
3 sets of books.
if you go back and you look at any of Craig's films, Poor and Hungry, Hustle and Flow, Black Snake Moan, even Footloose, Craig is a genius, and this is something he taught me when I think of film. He always thinks about the music that he is going to have in his film while he's going through the writing process, because it drastically affects the writing, it drastically affects his scene work. And there's not a lot of people that realize the power that has in a film when they're on that frontier. I mean, it's hard enough to get people, especially just viewers of film, to realize that even though it is a visual medium, sound is your most important factor. Because if you can't hear it, it's just pretty pictures if you're lucky.
Well, not only that, but the music sets the tone for every scene.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that you and myself have been talking a lot over the past week, because we actually got back in contact with each other because we're trying to have the Nature promo trailer scored right now. And that's how we got back in contact with each other and talking about who could do some of the things for as far as music, because I know to me and you, especially with me having such a large musical background, and music's a very important part of our lives, in everyday activities, especially when we're writing or doing something like that, that music is one of the most important things that you can have in your films, in your trailers.
And honestly, becoming a filmmaker has made my musical tastes widen, because there are moments where a song I would hear come on the radio that would instantly get me to turn the station, I've seen it in a film and gone, oh, I see how that and why that works there. And I can't, as much as I might personally not like that song,
it could fit,
I can't think of a
yeah.
better song for that moment right now. So there are ways of making there are certain combinations that just work. And as a filmmaker, I had to realize I need to kind of look outside of my personal tastes, as wide as they may be, and allow other forms of music to speak to me at times, because it can drastically change a scene.
Isn't that great when that happens?
I think it really, really helped me as a writer and as a
Fabulous.
filmmaker.
Well, I mean, there's so many instances where a soundtrack has made the film. I keep coming back to the movie The Natural with Robert Redford.
Mm-hmm.
And that soundtrack is such a dramatic and integral part. I mean, Randy Newman, who people don't get, what a
Right.
fabulous talent the man is. I mean, all the thing is short people got nobody and everything else. Trust me, listen to the soundtrack by itself for The Natural, and it stands alone as something that's great. And you look at all the soundtracks now that are being used on films being done now, they're going back to the 50s and the 60s and the early 70s and all that great music. And all the artists now are so thrilled because they get all this mailbox music. I mean, all this mailbox money. You know,
Yeah.
every time they turn around, they get more money. As horrible as Lou Reed's passing is,
That was a horrible passing.
his estate is going to get a huge amount of money in the next 3 to 6 months just because people are going to play
Market
plays
it, yeah, they're gonna
on the
license
wild
his
side.
song.
I mean, they're going to
Oh,
play
yeah.
all the radio play he's getting for that and everything else. It's going to be killing. License, he could be alive. He just released his first, if I understand correctly, his first feature.
I was going to say, he just released a movie.
You know, when you think about the amount of talent now who's been in the music business that's crossing over. Think of the people in the film business who's crossing over to music. We're talking about soundtrack. One of my favorite illustrations of great acting, great directors, is Clint Eastwood. Because if you look at his films, look who does the soundtrack, and look who writes a lot of this stuff and rearrange it, and it's Clint Eastwood.
It's him, yeah.
So he's directing, he's writing, he's acting, he's doing the soundtrack. You can bet your butt he's sitting in that editing suite during that process and everything else. And he knows when he's writing this stuff, he knows what music in his head is
he
going
also,
through.
I mean, think of his
come
career.
on,
He's been in some of the most
Iconolozed.
iconic music soundtrack films.
Ever.
Ennio Morricone did some of the most recognizable music ever produced in Hollywood. So Clint grew up with worked in all of that. He knew immediately the power of what music would have.
And his flick Play Misty for Me.
Oh, of
If
course.
that wasn't a soundtrack music driven.
Oh, it was. It
And
was.
you can even bring that up to more modern films, and I say modern. I'm showing my age now. The original Crow film with Brandon Lee. A small action film with a genre production.
Yeah.
But the soundtrack of that film created an entire different audience that went to see that movie because they bought the soundtrack because of who was on it. You had everything from Pantera to the Stone Temple Pilots to The Cure to Nine Inch Nails. Mm-hmm. You had all these different things represented on there.
Well, so was like
It really
The
changed
Queen of the
at
Dam.
that. I was going to say it changed at that time the way films were looking at their soundtracks.
Right.
And we were
Right.
suddenly right after The Crow, every movie out there was starting to look at a score and a songs from release. We were no longer seeing just a soundtrack that had whatever.
there
on it.
again, there
Yeah.
are soundtracks that kill a film.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
not soundtracks, but the music for film. I was really disappointed. I watched the newest version of The Great Gatsby with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire, and I was very disappointed in the sounds, the music that they put into the film. This is supposed to be a dated film, but they put in modern rap where there should be classic jazz.
Yeah.
And that's a disappointment because, when you're doing a film to that nature, you want to stick... I would want to stick with the period music and not use something more modern.
Personally, I would too, although personally I would have nothing to do with Great Gatsby because I hate that story. But that's just me.
I'd seen the older version.
But I know that...
Anytime I see an older version of a film, I always tend to like to watch the newer version. I Spit on Your Grave. I watched the new I Spit on Your Grave. The old Great Gatsby. I watched the new Great Gatsby. And it was very, very, very disappointed in it.
The postman always rings twice. Yeah, right.
Mhm.
The new Psycho versus the old Psycho.
Right.
Yeah.
The new what?
Thank you.
That never happened.
Thank you very
That
much.
just, I love Gus Van Sant, don't get me wrong, but that just never happened.
No, there was, but see, there's so many. That's another issue.
Vince Vaughn, first of all, just no.
That's another issue.
No.
You see, that has to do with making a new film out of a very wonderful,
I'm
pre-digested idea, and they keep bringing it around and around and around and again.
I was
and it keeps
recently
hitting
asked
it.
what I think of the remake.
Of
Just
Yeah.
the concept of the remake.
yeah.
Who made that?
I believe it was you.
me.
And there are some films, I guarantee you, there are many films that were made that, if remade, could be made better for what they are. You know, anything, even The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
No.
Think of that. If
That
they
was like a
remade that
good
now,
cheesy movie.
it
What
could
would you
have
want to
it
spit
could have
out
a
with
better
the
looking
bubbles?
creature. It could have better looking effects. They could improve that. They could make it better, maybe.
Silver Springs, come on.
But there are also certain films.
That should never be.
Why? I mean,
Yeah.
should we?
Some films have
And
never
I-
been made in the first place, but that's a
I
different
can't
issue.
believe I'm going to say this,
Then don't,
but
because
should
you know we're recording this.
should they remake Psycho? No, they should not remake Psycho. Should they remake
Why?
what's the one with Red Buck?
With what?
Red
You talking about the Gone with the
Gone with the
Wind?
When? Yes. No.
Should Gone with the, and I personally, again, I didn't know the name of that because I hate that
It
movie.
depends on who you're
But I
casting.
recognize what it was,
A lot more
when it was, and
sex.
the importance of it. But for what that movie
Oh,
is,
not.
should they remake that? Should Citizen Kane get remade? Could Citizen Kane be remade properly? Psycho's one of those films, to me, should not have been done. Go ahead and remake Godzilla. Go ahead and remake The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
But when I was touching on the subject of a remake, I was
Citizen
more.
Kane's that's a very interesting issue.
When I was touching more
Very
on,
interesting.
not as far as a remake, but a lot of foreign films, like especially a lot of Japanese films.
Yeah, you were talking about the retranslation of
Of
film
a
into
Japanese, into more of a market of, well, you know, The Ring.
I was going to say
The Ring was a Japanese movie that was
Ringu.
turned in, Ringu, that was turned into an American, you know, it
Dark
was readapted into an American film.
The one with
Magnificent Seven.
Magnificent
yes.
Seven with Seven Samurai.
Mhm.
The one with Sarah Michael Gellar. She was in a horror film. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it was based on a Japanese horror film.
Okay.
Spike Lee
Mhm.
has just recently remade Old Boy, which is actually it might be Korean. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's
Well,
either
it's still in
Japanese
the
or
Asian
Korean.
market.
Korean?
I think so.
Korean.
Is
We
it?
decide.
That's
We're
it.
voting on Korean.
But I mean, this is something that happens a lot. Even Road to Perdition, which I brought up earlier. This is a funny path. Road to Perdition is actually based on Lone Wolf and Cub, which is an Asian production, where your road.
Well, I mean, there's certain movies that have been remade, and one, you know, a couple of them that I'm a fan of is, you know, Rob Zombie took John Carpenter's Halloween and remade it.
Mm-hmm.
But Rob Zombie also had the genius idea of going, I'm not going to take it through 15 more levels.
Right.
I did 1, I did 2, I did everything that I think was possible. I'm not going to keep doing it and create something more negative. You know, I wanted to recreate these movies because they had such an impact on me, but I'm not going to take it past that. So knowing when to stop with a remake is also a good idea as well when you're going to do a remake. And if you do a remake, make it really good.
Make it better. I mean,
Remake it better.
My
yes.
biggest
More
problem with
better.
the remake is the reason they're doing it is because they don't want to spend the extra money licensing new stories. They already own these properties, so let's make money off of these properties. So they rehash them, they sequelize them, whatever it is they're going to do. And I don't think a lot of times that they really have the proper passion behind them. And I'm not going to say good, bad, or otherwise. Personally, I enjoyed watching them, but for what they're supposed to be, I don't think they work.
Mm-hmm.
But Star Trek, when they relaunched Star Trek with J.J. Abrams,
Okay.
I remember seeing an interview. My brother is a huge Star Trek fan, so I grew up with it.
Okay.
And I'm, a fan of the show as well. When I heard they were relaunching it, and J.J. Abrams was doing it, I was curious, because I had enjoyed his work up until that point. Alias, Fringe up at that point, a couple things that had run on TV I really enjoyed. So I was curious. I saw an interview with him, where he said, "I've never been a fan of Star Trek. I've never really liked the concept." My immediate question was, why would you have that man make the movie? Wouldn't you want someone that had a passion for what it should be? Wouldn't you want someone who has an invested interest in truly satisfying the fan base of what that show is supposed to be when you bring it back? And I think that's why the reactions to it have been so divided every time, each film that's gotten released in the series has had a really divided
You as a
reaction.
filmmaker, how do you feel about that, looking from the other side? I mean, if you decide to make a remake, I mean, are you going to find someone with a passion for that? Are you going to find someone who's the greatest actor you've ever seen?
Honestly,
No, I would rather have somebody that had a passion around it
Yes.
myself.
Have the great actor.
I can't see, as a filmmaker, if I was asked to make a film, I can't see making a film I don't find a passion for.
But we're talking about as an actor. Remember, an actor is going to do the work. You as a director,
As an actor, I'm looking for a role.
but but if you don't have a passion for that role, but you're the best actor, the director likes you, the casting director says you're great at it, you go to school and you learn about the role, and you find out what it is, those little hooks, as anything else. I don't think you have to be a Trekkie in order to play Captain Kirk.
No, not necessarily.
I don't think so. I mean, again, it's great to be hooked into. When I was doing soap operas moons ago, I never watched them until I started auditioning for them, and then I wanted to know what the flow of what the flow of it was, and what you got.
Right.
So you get the storyboard. You understand what it is. After I stopped doing that, I liked a lot of the people in there that I was working with, so I'd watch their work. But I don't think I ever got hooked like some people get hooked on soaps.
Right.
Okay, I believe that you can play a role if you're a good actor, and we're talking about, right now, not this discussion, we're talking about the upper echelon of talent.
Okay.
Not whether you have as much experience, but if you're talented, because we know some people who are very, very talented, who have either been out of the business for a while or just coming into the business for a while. You as a filmmaker, you want a talent that you can direct.
Mm-hmm.
You want someone who's fresh, who won't bring staid and that boring vanilla understanding.
Right.
You want somebody who's going to be fresh, going to give you something to work with when you get back into the editing room. You want something that is interesting, that can be worked with. You as a director and as a producer, you want the same thing. Whether they know all the songs that the person they're portraying has sung, you probably, because that's part of their life in that situation, you would hope that they got into it as
Yeah.
part of the character. But I would hope that I don't have to be a fan.
I'm not necessarily
order to
saying you
be-
have to be a fan, but I do think that
So when I'm
on
coming to
something that iconic.
So when I'm coming to audition for you, which I hope to do again very soon, when the next time you find something that I can either a role that made for
Honestly,
me.
I have something in mind that
Oh,
I might
good.
want you for, and it wouldn't even be an audition.
Oh,
for
good.
It would
Well, I'll
be a
tell you what.
sit-down with
Well, here's the thing. I like playing like evil characters.
Of course.
I love those. Those are my favorite. And I like singing love songs, not necessarily at the same time. Kissy face music.
Although that might be an interesting
Yeah, it would.
dichotomy
That
on
was-
Well, that's
screen.
like that
Kinda
was
like
the
Singing
Dracula.
in the Rain
that was the
and,
Dracula deal.
Clockwork Orange.
But oh yeah, that'd be cool. But no, I mean, as an actor, there's nothing more fun in doing something that you are not. It's like you in your real life.
Right.
And to play, and thank God I'm not like this. At least I don't think. Rapists, murderers, all this stuff. I mean,
The dark side of the personality.
oh my God, they're the most fun because you really can't get away with that legally in real life.
And in real
And
life,
you-
you
and
would be
you really
committed
get-
for it.
You also really
Absolutely.
get to separate yourself from yourself. You really
Absolutely,
get to
it is a role,
something.
and you're talking about the method and do everything else. Where people don't understand, the method is a way of becoming involved in a character to the fact where it's not, you're not acting anymore, you're being real.
You are that person.
Absolutely, and it's a wonderful way of becoming a character. It's very hard, it's very time consuming. It's a process. People talk about Sandy Meisner and Actors Studio and stuff. I was lucky enough to have some experience working through that studio. So when you're working with Sandy Meisner, and this is not telling tales out of class, I mean, you may not do a scene for a couple of years working in that to understand what's going on. Lee Strasberg, people may have heard. If you saw a movie so many movies. If you saw The Godfather, the second one, you saw Lee Strasberg, who played the mobster, the Vegas mobster who was funding the guy from in Cuba. Meyer was supposed to be Meyer Lansky. I forgot what his character was. Talking about a soundtrack, the Godfather love song from The Godfather that Al Martino sang was never in any of those movies. Be softly love and slowly low against her heart was not in the movie, in any part of the movie. It never played in the movie, but that was the #1 song of that period, came out of that supposed to be the soundtrack of The Godfather. It was the love song for The Godfather, never in the movies.
That's funny.
It's great. It's part of what soundtracks are.
Well, you know,
They don't have to tie into something,
you never
something
know.
that sells.
A soundtrack is something that can change, you know, even after a film's been done.
Oh, yeah.
I think of
Tarantino
Legend
all the time. Again, very
with
good.
Tom
Cruise.
A really horribly young, horrible performance by Tom
Well, the
Cruise.
movie was horrible, period.
Well, it's a kid's movie, and it's really enjoyable on that level. I definitely do own it in my collection.
Joe versus the Volcano is another one. I love that movie.
The soundtrack
Steven Spielberg.
was released with it. I want to say there was a Tangerine Dream soundtrack. Can't remember now. But
Good songs.
years later, they released the other soundtrack that had been done for it.
Good songs.
And it was, you know, I'm getting it wrong, but it was like there was a Tangerine Dream one and a John Williams one, and you know, they had to decide which one to go with theatrically at the time. So there are often cases where you will have multiple soundtracks being created for a film,
Oh, yeah.
and you won't know right up until almost release which one of them is actually going to be put on that film.
Absolutely. As an actor, it's very interesting. I was having this discussion, by the way, with one of my fabulous acting coaches, Molly Benson in Los Angeles.
We know Molly
We know
Benson
Molly.
very well.
Molly Benson is again, we're talking about people who are important to the making of film, to the making of content, of art. Molly and so many other people who do what she does, but Molly especially has a unique rapport with actors. I love working with her. I'm looking forward to working with her again. And a fabulous person, again, name dropping. Love Molly Benson. I started with Alan Landers, who's now passed. He was the Winston guy. Remember and the cigarettes and everything
Yep.
else? He was the Winston guy, and I used to call him Iron Ass, IA, because he could sit in a chair during acting class for 6 hours and not get up. And I knew his butt had to be made of metal because he could sit there all the time and never move. I think that was amazing. He just didn't like getting up and didn't have to go to the bathroom. He had other issues also. But another great acting coach. All the people that go through the Actors Studio, people who go through with Stella Adler, Nina Foch, so many acting coaches who I have been lucky enough to work with, who make it easy. The acting coaches that we have here, there's so many people who are now you guys have had your own acting classes for a while. There are other people, you mentioned Daniel Martine, really good guy, really good actor, good guy.
I think probably one of the better coaches for groups in this class. or in
Yeah, but
this
there's
town.
so few. You have to remember, this is a very small market, and there's no, like Forrest Pruitt at Indie Acting. Again, he throws it out there, he puts it there. It's a very collegiate situation. He has people that he works with all the time, similar to Orson Welles in his stuff that he put together, as people that he worked with and everything else. Again, it's not the way I like to work, but it works for him. Mm-hmm. And he's done it. His studio has been going for years.
Yeah.
I think we've
Doing
gone
pretty well
through
for
it.
himself, as far as I understand.
We've gone through his studio. I think I met you at one of his
That's where we
studios
met,
or stuff. Yeah. And he's putting it out there, doing his work. There are people in colleges and high schools here. You got people like in Germantown, Frank Bluestein. People at Rhodes, and she's been at Rhodes for a while. I don't know if she's still working. Is Cookie Haley. Fabulous directors, also great actors. With Playhouse on the Square, with Theater Memphis, with the smaller community theaters around here. It's a way for people, if they want to act, to go act. If they want to do in front of the camera, go in front of the camera. If they want to If they want to do behind the camera, go do behind, or whatever it is. There's plenty of places to learn. It's a great jumping off place to come. But Memphis is a wonderful place to say you're from. I mean, it has a vibe here and a je ne sais quoi
It definitely does
that
that.
other places don't have. Nashville has a music business.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the centers of music business in the world. Okay, Memphis doesn't have a music business. It has great musicians and some people who are putting it out there. The David Lesses of the world, the Ward Archers, Nico Liris. Again, we mentioned Sam Shute, Gary Topper, those guys. Boo Mitchell is still out there killing it, putting out great product on the music side. Film's going to be the same way. People like you guys understand that you've got to not. It's called a business, and content is king. Content will always be king. The ability to get distribution now on a international basis through YouTube and some of these other platforms takes the excuse out of distribution out of our equation as filmmakers and as music makers, because now we can't say we won't get it out there and seen. We can get our product out there and seen on the same basis as everywhere else.
Yep.
But you're understanding that you have to have above the line talent. Spike Jones brings a je ne sais quoi again, a je ne sais quoi to the joint, and will get people eyes to watch his stuff. As Bob Kelly, blessed memory from his South concerts, used to say, you put butts in the benches.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way to do it. If everybody's paying, look at, iTunes, look what they've shown. You get enough people paying 99 cents for something. You get a bunch of coin.
And it's happening iTunes has a film distribution.
Absolutely.
Amazon has film distribution.
Yes.
Netflix has film distribution.
Yes.
And so does
Hulu and Crackle offer film screenings. There's a billion other websites out there that you can put your film on and get it
Absolutely.
seen.
And we are learning that that is the most important part of the business side of the film business, of the TV business. We keep talking about films. As long as we understand it's not just films, feature films in the theater, it's TV. There's a group, I think it's Drake University. That's wrong. It's Drexel University out of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That they are using now that their platform of local affiliates on the East Coast of distributing their episodic, situational shows, their comedy shows, their situation comedies, everything else. We have that option here because we've got the distribution through our local cable. We have it through
Right.
all these other places. We have it, then as you talked about Netflix and YouTube and Amazon and all these guys. Content will always be king, but it has to be good content. You guys are making good content. You think you are.
We're trying to.
You think you are? No, you think you're making good content. People who are watching it, giving you attaboy, keep making more good content. And now the reality is making good content is not the problem. It's making money while you're making good content is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
that is the
That
biggest
is the
issue.
curse.
That is the biggest issue.
But even the people, the crew that you have here doing this show, are quality people. These are great.
Yes, he is.
These are great. These are great cinematographers and great lighting guys and everything else. I mean, they are. There's no question about it. And he has talent, and he uses that talent and makes his talent better, like you guys are doing, like we're all doing here and want to do and everything.
That's one
else.
of the things we push ourselves to do is on every, I said we took some time off from actual production of narrative work.
And you,
It
guys,
is so
and you
that-
had to get a real job.
It is so that we can go back and look at how we do that next narrative work.
Well, it's
so that
it's
we
putting,
can make it better than the last one.
right. It's putting the effort into it to. It's more about doing what's right for the good of the film, and it's also about what's right for us as filmmakers to be able to put a better product out there.
If you knew every day that you were going to work and you were working on a TV show sold to the TV networks,
Heaven.
Mm-hmm.
and you were making a how-to on a cooking show, that was the thing you were doing, and every day you were making cooking shows, are you still in heaven?
Not as much so, but I'm still in a production. I'm still in the industry I would want to
You're
be
working.
in, and I'm working.
You're working. And our goal as producers, as people in the business, is that is our work.
Whoa,
That is our work.
you say that, and we've actually experienced that. Much of what we have done, and I specified earlier that we cut back on narrative film work. We've done numerous corporate things. We helped Business Over Coffee launch their TV series, which is an interview talk show,
Good.
which we actually film and produce. Kent does 99% of the work on
Kent, boom shaka boom.
that.
Hey.
But, you know, we have done a lot of other stuff that isn't what we want to be doing.
But you're in a business.
But it's in this business, it's sharpening our talents, it's putting us in a situation where we will force ourselves to learn every day
But that's what we do.
and move forward,
That's what we do.
making the next narrative that much better than the last one.
It's also, gentlemen, and we know this, it's also an ego deal. I'll tell you. If you're ever on an airplane and want someone to talk to you, tell them you're in the film business. If you're ever on an airplane and someone not to talk to you, tell them you're in the insurance business. Trust me, you're going to get different responses.
The film one always, the first question everyone asks is, what kind of porn?
Yeah, really.
What kind do you want to make?
For some reason, they always think we
we're
make porn.
Well, because it's fun. Why not? That shows where their mind is, but that's okay. Tell them if they've got a budget big enough, you can find other members that are big enough in order to make the thing go.
You said member.
And remember, the only difference in how-tos and porn is the soundtrack. Everything else is the same. Be that as it may. That's
Somehow
another
I
rule.
don't think that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is too, believe me.
But I mean, I do. From a technical point of view, you're right. It's all working the camera, I mean, you're
The
building a
only thing
production.
that's different is the soundtrack. And that's just the way that it is. We are in a fabulous business. We have to remember it's very hard work.
Yeah,
It's
it's
extremely
Some days
difficult.
digging
Extremely
ditches and leaving it at the end of the day after your 8 or 10 hour of ditch digging, using lava soap and washing it off and doing it 5 days a week and knowing you have 2 full days to do something else and a vacation time and everything else
What's
is sometimes
vacation?
very nice. Sometimes it's, and you get paid for it as part of the package.
What is vacation? What's
There's-
getting paid?
You're laughing, ha ha ha, and that's
No,
part
I'm
of
not.
the
No, it's not
I
laughing,
understand
ha ha ha.
completely.
Because
Until
everything.
we become employees of our production companies,
Mhm.
then we are
Starving.
worse.
Well, you know,
Yeah,
you
worse.
said vacations, and the reason why that we were laughing, especially me. I mean, through everything that I've ever tried to do as far as film production has always been vacation time for me from work. The way I do anything, any of the stuff that we do is I take vacation time. So, you know, vacation time doesn't mean anything when you're doing a film, because if you got vacation time, that's just a way of going, I can leave work without getting fired.
Until we learn to value ourselves. And again, we were talking, came back to this article, and I think it was Backstage, is how do we value ourselves? We know we don't charge by the hour, except the union says we charge. They give us the rates, which is great. Tennessee is not a union state; it's a right to work state. So unless you're lucky enough to get on a union gig, you're getting paid whatever crumbs these people decide you're crummy you are.
And those crumbs usually consist of the pizza.
And it's cold, it's not even good pizza. Be that, excuse me, on your shoots they were always good pizza. Because I like cold pizza anyway.
You need to get to one of these
And I
shoots
don't
if
eat,
you
and
want some food.
I don't eat meat, so I'm easy. But again, we have to value our time and value our efforts and value our work. And artists have a better market. I'm talking about real artists who do wall hangings and sculptures. There's a market that's a lot more open and a lot less confined than filmmakers. Musicians, the market is a lot more open than filmmakers. And until we value ourselves appropriately, we still may be doing other jobs to eat, but we're not dissing ourselves. And this challenge happens a lot in the live music business in Memphis. For whatever reason, the venues have decided that the musicians, the professional musicians, are not valuable as a commodity, and they pay us miserably for our time and for our work. A lot of the time, some of the larger groups around pay less than $20 for a night for 4 hours for some of the most superb musicians you've ever heard. A lot of the people we've been talking about tonight,
Right.
and musicians, I mean, they're getting paid, they're not even getting gas money for what these gigs they're doing. And they're they're not showing up and doing a half-ass job or a quarter-ass job. They're doing their
They're
full-blown
pouring their
stuff.
heart out. Yeah.
They're kicking it, and they're getting paid bubkus, very little. And we want to say that's the business of owning clubs in the city of Memphis. No, that's the...
It doesn't have to be.
That's the habit and what we have allowed ourselves as musicians to put ourselves in that position because we're playing. We're playing out. And playing out is fun. It's great.
Yeah, it's what you're shooting for.
It's really hard work. But you'd rather pay out where they're paying you like you're supposed to be, and that's why people can't make a living in Memphis doing music. They go everywhere else. They'll go to Nashville, they'll go to Los Angeles, they'll come back here to live.
Yeah.
Because Memphis is an
Exactly.
easy place to live. It really is. Once you have it wired here, it is easy to live. And everything that's available in Los Angeles is available here. And we also have long-distance phones and long-distance airplanes when it's time to go where we have to go. And the great musicians from Memphis say Memphis is a great place to say you are from, as they're playing in New York, or they're playing in Japan.
The
and they're
name
playing everywhere
itself
else.
has connotations.
Absolutely. Again, it has a vibe.
Outside
to it.
of this city, Memphis is Elvis and Johnny Cash and Isaac Hayes
It's Sun
and
Records.
Records and Beale
It's
Street.
Sun Records. It's Wendy Moten. It's Nico Lyris. Oh my gosh, there's so many
I was
fabulous
going to say, you can just keep
musicians.
going. Al Green.
Going.
You can just...
But those are the older guys. I mean, there was David Porter. A friend of mine from Charlotte says David Porter is in the lobby of this hotel and everybody's freaking out over it. I'm thinking, my David Porter from Memphis and everything else with Grammy award-winning producer and writer and everything else. He said, no, not that one. I'm thinking, so what?
Then never mind.
You know, it's like David Foster. Is the David Foster this David Foster, or the David Foster who's one of the greatest musicians and writers and everything else that's ever been? You know, here in Memphis, they can come in and they can be a little bit, less obvious.
They can be anonymous.
Kinda.
Well, it was just like when
Kinda.
you and I were talking, you said that Michael McDonald lives in Memphis.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Travels outside of Memphis a lot.
Yeah.
But I think his home is still here. There are a lot of actors who are here. I don't want to drop names. Corey Parker.
Well, I was going
Yep.
to say, we know Corey Parker lives in
Corey
town.
Parker's in town, a really great talent. Again, I said, why are you living here? He said, because I married someone from Memphis. Hey, it works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Daniel Martin was here because he married someone regionally.
a lot of people are like that because it's a very easy place to live. There's a vibe here. There's a gentleness and easiness, but it's also cocooning, and it's very dangerous because when you go out of Memphis and go to places like Los Angeles, like Miami, like Atlanta, like when you travel out of the country, even Montreal, even to, and you go to places like Rio or go to in South America, you go to places in Japan or in Europe or in Central America, Central America, Central Asia. Go to India for a while. Go to Tokyo for a while. Go to China for a while, where there are over 300 cities as large as Chicago. Deal with that. 11 city, a couple of weeks ago, shut the whole city down because of air pollution. 11 million people shut these, and that wasn't the largest city that they shut down for air pollution. Those dynamics are massive. That's a huge market, and trust me, they like Memphis stuff there.
Oh, yeah.
So we as filmmakers are missing that market. It's not we're missing it.
We're not aware of it,
Well,
by and large.
Well, we're not aware of it, and we don't know the channels in which to...
I was going to say how to get there
Keep
or what
talking.
to give them.
Keep talking. All of that's exactly right. And
Yeah.
there are people in this city who have marketed in China, maybe not in film, but they've marketed it in cotton, and they've marketed it in other things, so they know how to market in Asia. They
But,
know how
I mean,
to market in Australia.
You want to see someone who's just crazy for Elvis or Memphis, go to Japan. You know,
Japan,
Elvis is
Ireland, England.
Elvis is a religion over there.
Go to
practically.
Israel. The weirdest thing is you go to the Middle East, in the middle of Israel, there is an Elvis club and a restaurant and stuff. And by the way, a lot of the people in there were army guys. A lot of the people in there were kids. A lot of people, and on the hill over there is Golan Globus Productions, one of the largest international productions, film and TV productions. So here's Golan Globus for film, and here's Elvis. Now, what could be more obvious than that? And Memphis doesn't use it. Most people in Memphis do not go to Graceland unless people from out of town come in and want to go to Graceland. Okay. Sun Records. Very few people that I know own Sun Record T-shirts unless they came to Memphis and visited, and they took them there, and they ended up with Sun Record T-shirts. People don't understand. There's a station ID for a local radio station here doing oldies and everything else. And one of their hooks is music you heard in the Coliseum. Well, what a great hook. Another great hook. Sun, was it the Sun or Sun, the Killer, and the King? Memphis. You know, of course, some people hear Memphis and they say the Killer and they think of a different kind of killer than we do.
They think of that list of where we're the top 5 worst city in America.
Yeah, or Martin Luther King, that killing, or all these other killings. They don't understand it. Jerry Lee Lewis is a killer.
Lewis,
Yeah.
It's killer. Elvis. Elvis is not Elvis Costello. As wonderful a musician as he is, it's not Elvis Costello. It's Elvis Presley. And if you listen to George Klein every Sunday morning from 7 to 8, whatever
The
time
speaker
he's
in the
on with
speaker.
his hour, oh my gosh, Elvis Presley, 1 billion records sold. 90 albums on the top 100.
We did have
That's
a
fairly strong.
recent sign of solidarity
Lisa Marie, if you get Lisa
showing
Marie
in the
on that
music
video.
industry locally,
Which was
with
what?
EPE allowing, for the first time in a really long time, if not for the first time, allowing local musicians to perform on the lawn of Graceland during Elvis Week. So
That
they
was good. I'm sure there was a
that
big
was something
pick
that
and
the
choose deal.
Memphis Music Foundation was able to put that together.
That's good.
And
That's very
that
good.
happened this year. So we're
That's
starting
Dean
to,
Deo, right?
I think so.
Yeah, Dean, another quality guy.
We're
who's
starting to
entertainment
see
man. Kevin Kane,
we're starting
another
to
great
see
guy.
people start to recognize what this city's art crowd and arts history can bring if given the opportunity.
That's great stuff.
If we can
It
come
really is great
together as
stuff.
musicians and filmmakers and actors and models and whatever else it might be, that whatever other arts we might do, if we can come together and kind of stand with solidarity and as a unit and really show that this is what drives culture. This is, and Memphis it really is the heart on many levels.
One more thing I want to mention, and I am one of the ones that I'm addressing when I'm talking about this. It's very nice that we have this kind of interview, that we talk about this kind of business, the entertainment business that we have in this city. And you brought up something that said it's not that you took a hiatus or you took some time, but you had to regroup and refocus in what you were doing, not only as an artist in an art form, but also as a business.
Also, as I discussed before the show, on a personal level, having just recently lost a parent,
Right, emotional issues.
and trying to figure out, I had emotional issues regarding that parent for years anyway.
Right.
Then there was a period of time where we were working out resolutions, but now that never saw full fruition, and he's gone.
Right.
So I'm really trying to figure out what that's done within me,
Right.
and how that can be turned into my art and made something I can use in a healthy way.
I think exactly right. After hearing a little bit about what you shared with me, after hearing a little bit about what you shared with me, I'm just telling you guys, these are going to be 2 films coming out of these guys in the next little while, talking about issues that you're dealing with, and issues that you've dealt with in your life and everything else. 2 more films coming out. They're going to be really good when you guys do this.
Well, thank you.
Thank
It
you.
will be. And that addresses an issue that I have to work on every day. I call it get off your lame butt and do something issue. If we were working for ourselves as filmmakers and we hired us on to work for us, there are very few days that we would let us as employees get away with what we let ourselves get away with as owners of our production companies.
There are days when that is true, and then there are days when my wife would tell you that is so far from the truth.
But
Yes.
that's what we do.
She actually bought me a video game so I would stop working.
Oh, that was nice.
I'm not even a video game. I just
Understand.
She recognized I
But-
had to do something different.
But we have to elevate our business, our careers, to a higher level.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do it every day.
Yep.
We have to understand that what we have done up to this point is very nice, and it's gotten us to where we are now. And we have to now take it to that next level, whatever level that is. Each of us have our own.
Each of us
We're
has
all
our
on our own
own
levels. For me, I've got goals of production here and there and this and that, along with everything else that I want to do to write new stuff. A TV series would be great. A how-to series, a small little series would be great. In the can, put it away, do that. Cooking shows, a wonderful thing to do. People are always eating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We talked about some other concepts about things that are important to you, and important to me. I call that, and excuse me, that's verbal masturbation.
Right.
It sounds good coming out of our mouths. And that's what it does. It sounds good coming out of our
And
mouths.
that's all it is.
Coming out of our mouths. And we have to put it into practice. If in any sales business, any type of business, which is what we're doing, we're salesmen.
Mm-hmm.
And saleswomen, salespeople. Any type of business, you're going to talk to 10 people. And if you get 3 out of that 10, that'll give you a strong listening, that will give you the time of day or anything else in order to advance where you want to go. Listen, if you hit 300 in Major League Baseball, 300, that puts you in the Hall of Fame. That means 7 out of 10 times you've not been successful in what you have done.
Mm-hmm.
And even that 3 out of that 10, you haven't hit home runs every time.
But you did something.
You got a single, you got a double, you made...
You got on the base, you made advancement.
You were involved in the game. Even if you may have bunted and gotten thrown out, you advanced
Mm-hmm.
the game. We have to do that as filmmakers. It's our egos that get in our ways, because we have decided that we don't sell insurance. We make movies. We're in the TV business. We're actors. We're singers. We're vocalists. We're writers. We're all these wonderful things. Well, it's like my grandfather, blessed memory, said, if you're so wonderful, where's your hotel? If you're so great in what you're doing, where is the result, your positive results of what you've done? Yes, I know you've influenced all these people. They like what you have done. When they listen to your music or watch your film or anything else, they feel good about it. During the process, you hired people and they worked with you and they got money and they got their dreams precipitated also, because you understand, you as the CEO of your company, you understand what your goal is to make everyone who's involved feel part of it, so they give more, and
Right.
we all have to do that. And we still have to make money. At the end of the day, it's our butts that are on the lines. So the investor makes up his money plus a little bit extra, because it's our butts on the line. We make a little bit of extra besides being paid as salaried employees of our own companies.
Right.
The dividend that we get, oh my God, you mean after profits? The dividends, which we should be getting every year, along with our investors and everything else, another issue, along with giving to charity, which is very important. You have to give back not only in our time and our money, but in other things that we do.
Well, we often do that. We've said that when we, as filmmakers or as musicians, as any kind of an artist, you're asking a community to support you.
Absolutely.
So, giving back to a charity, and we've done it with the Junior Diabetes Foundation
Very good,
so far.
very good.
We haven't done it with other ones yet, but
It's okay. There's
basically
plenty of them
the
out there.
idea
Whatever
is
you do, there's plenty
every
of them to
production
tag.
we do or every event we hold, we're going to look and decide what do we want to do here for a charity, and we're going to look at giving anywhere from 10 to 20% to a charity, because that's giving back to the community we're asking to support us.
It's not only giving the money. It's giving your time to something. It's like, I know you guys
We give a lot of time.
I know you go to outreach and do stuff, and whenever you have the opportunity, You'll bring in other people in to teach them something,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be adults or children, whether they have, a lot of people like me are kind of slow on other things. We've maybe had very good teachers over the time in order to help us learn how to deal with a lot of our other challenges. I was very, very, very fat as a child. I've learned to work on that. Trust me, I've incorporated that into some of my work also. And we'll always do that and bring, as I get a better handle on it, on family issues and family dynamics. I get cast in some of these roles. But it's dawned on me, and we talked about this, Sylvester Stallone. He was doing some smaller roles and everything else, and then all of a sudden he decided he was going to write his own stuff.
And Rocky was born.
Rocky is born, and it turned into a lot of people have made a lot of money who have worked on a lot of those shows. Dirty
There's what,
Harry.
7 of those now?
However
6
many
of
it
those?
is.
Something like
Dirty
that?
Harry is the same way. He found a writer who says, go ahead and make my day. Some kid who came up with this great hook and turned it into a business. What a great thing. We are able to influence people in that way. Every day we, as talent, have the opportunity of doing something that no one else in the world can do. First of all, we understand that we may have a talent, we may have a passion, we may have a fire inside that never goes away, no matter how far or how long away you are from it. There's always something that keeps coming back to it. Someone said once, if you're burned out, that means at one time you had to be on fire. That's pretty cool.
That is kind of nice.
That's pretty cool. Especially people like me, who are now in their next half of their lives and have lame ass-itis, who must get off our lame asses, because if we really believe there's something inside of us to do, life will dredge it out of us one way or another. And as we go kicking and screaming toward our inevitable goal of success, if we would just for a minute have remembered that if we would have gotten out of our own ways a little bit more often, been a little bit more understanding, a little bit more loving, a little bit less judgmental.
A lot of things happen easier.
Yeah, but I guess, but some of what we're forged by the fires of life.
That's actually why our company is called what it is.
Yeah, but keep the name of the company, but you don't have to be forged in the fires all the time.
Well, it's about that inner fire, that
Yeah.
spiritual burn,
Oh, absolutely.
and
Like I
passion
said,
to
it never
get it out.
leaves. Tom Petty said, once the ghost gets in you, it never goes. That's a Tom Petty thing.
Yeah.
The ghost gets in him all the time. You don't think of him being 60-something or 70-something or 80-something years old. You don't think of the Rolling Stones being 70-something years old. Well, they're still rocking at 70. Well, until you said anything, I would have never
I was
thought
gonna
about
say,
their
you don't really
age.
think about that side of it.
I've never thought about your age.
Well, Sam, we're gonna call it a show here.
No,
I really.
it's only been 2 hours.
It's
It's only been 2 hours.
When you invited me here, did you think it was going to be this much fun?
We actually
knew-
discussed it a couple
we
of
already
times.
knew
We
there was
that
gonna
this
be
would
this
be a
much
good
Because
fun.
I
time.
haven't given you a tenth. I haven't even given you my tithing yet of what was
Well,
here.
we actually got way off topic early because I kind of wanted to go through how you got into the acting, the soap operas, what soap opera you
There's
were
always
on.
another day.
Wanted
No,
to
but
bring
you
you
see,
into
that's
the
not
local
part of
stuff,
this
But
thing.
there are other chances.
I am so... First, thank you much for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
When I say it's an honor and a privilege, believe me.
Thank you.
When I am the most insignificant part, in my opinion, of this business that I have chosen for myself. It'd be a lot easier for me to do other things.
Well, I think that's true
But-
of any position in this industry. A
But
lot
we
of it
have
would be
decided,
easier, but if
we
it's
have
the right
decided,
thing.
I don't know if it's right or not. Someone told me once, we don't get the grade until it's that last breath of that last moment when we're leaving this plane for the next, and that's when we get the grade. What have we done? Who have we influenced?
Mm-hmm.
You know, someone told me once, and I've expanded on it, to live, love, laugh, learn, and leave something great behind. Okay? That's, if you've gotten to that point, and you're getting to the grading system, thank you, you're getting to the grading system, I think you guys will be okay. I still have a long, lame ass way to go. So hopefully in the next 60 or 70 or 80 years, depending on how much longer we're blessed of being on this plane, that maybe we'll have these discussions periodically, and we'll say, God, Sam, why did you do that? You know?
Well, I have that discussion with myself quite
Yeah, all the
often,
time.
but
But you said, Sam, you
we
know,
will we'd definitely love to have you back another
thank you
time.
very much. I
We-
appreciate
we
it. Thank
will
you, everyone
definitely
here. I
talk.
hope we were enjoyable enough, and if not, come back. We'll try it again, maybe.
We'll definitely
Can't
talk
hand-
more
thank-
off camera as well,
thank
because
you,
as I
everybody.
said, there's a few things we'd like to talk to you about
No.
as far as some of our productions are going.
If you cast me, I hope it has money involved.
Well,
any-
we're doing our best not
Yeah.
to cast anybody in anything unless there's money involved.
What a
because it has
concept.
been too long.
What a concept. And by the way, I know we don't have much time, but thank you, Screen Actors Guild, AFTRA, thank you very much. Thank you all of the actors, the teachers, everyone else working our business. Thank you, the cinematographers, the gaffers, the grips, the editors, the writers, the rewriters.
The
Thank-
teams and teams of
Thank
people
you
that
for
it
people
takes.
who are putting their butts on the benches every time and watching our work. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for watching it again. Thank you for telling your friends, and thank you for not telling your friends when it stinks.
And I gotta stand behind all of that, you know, and add to it as directors and writers on projects. Thank you for the actors as well as everybody else you've named for having the faith in us as the filmmakers that we're going to achieve this vision we've laid out in front of everybody. Until next week, we thank you very much for joining us again. Mr. Sam Stock,
Thank
thank
you.
you for being here.
Sam Period, the only man you know that owns up to having a period.
And
Thank
we'll
you
see you
very
all
much.
next week.
Take care.
Um,